Okay, Alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulillah, amma ba'd. Thank you all for coming. And last time, somebody asked if we can talk about how we determine what to do in the future. Like, what is my purpose in life, but more specifically, what is my calling? How do I know what to do in college? Or even before that, how to, for example, plan for my future, and what kind of process, what kind of things I can do, what kind of tools I have in order to help me determine what kind of person I'm gonna be. So this does not only include a profession, but also the type of work I do in life, the kind of work I pursue in life. Now, mind you, this was really easy in the past. In the past, if you were a farmer, most likely your kids will take after you. They'll be peasants or farmers. If you were the son of a king, most likely you're going to be a prince. If you were a soldier, most likely your children will be soldiers. Nowadays, thanks to the modern system and the schooling and all of that, you have many options. And a lot of people are confused. So on one hand, it's good because you have lots of options. You're not dictated or you're not limited to the profession of your father. Except in some cases, maybe if you're a doctor, you want your child to be a doctor. But most likely, you're going to have many options ahead of you. And on one hand, it is good because you have the freedom of choice. On the other hand, it is a little hard because now you have to do some homework to do or to determine who you're going to be and what you're going to do in life. So I hope this halaqa will kind of make it easy for you or make it a little easier for you. And inshallah, we'll also tap into some Islamic knowledge and what the Prophet did in this particular case, how he, for example, how he saw potential in his companions. He was really good in this, as we're going to see. The Prophet being able to look at his companions and tell them what they're good at. All right? First, I want to narrate something from a book because some people think, well, I should know what to do when I'm very young. So this man said, I'll tell you who it is in a minute, but he said, I decided to become an astrophysicist. Older than that. I remember the night. The sky was full of stars, the big and little dippers, the planets, Jupiter and Saturn. A meteor streaked toward the horizon, and I saw what looked like a cloud moving across the sky. Yet, it was not a cloud at all. I was looking out at our very own cosmic neighborhood, the Milky Way galaxy, a region of space crowded with 100 billion stars. For nearly an hour, I watched all this action with wonder. Then the lights came back on. Even when I read it first, I thought he was looking at the real sky. So he said, then the lights came back on, and I found myself sitting in the American Museum of Natural History. What it seemed was a star show, but that did not limit the impact. That night, he said, that night I knew what I wanted to be when I grew up. I was going to be an astrophysicist. I mean, this sounds really nice. By the way, this is Neil deGrasse Tyson. He's a famous astrophysicist, and this is astrophysics for young people in a hurry. The point is, this rarely happens. that you know what you want to be when you're 9 years old? I mean, how many of you have an idea what you want to be? Good, I mean, that's better than I thought. It's really good. But see what happens many times, and I've seen it myself. You know, you start by wanting to be a firefighter, and then you want to be a policeman. And I guarantee you by the time you're in college, you definitely do not want to be a policeman, for various reasons. But we change all the time. And it's really hard to determine what you want to do in life. So it is true, some people might have this calling when they're very young, but the vast majority of us, it's not that easy. And we waver, and we're not certain, and we change our mind. And sometimes we're unsure even when we're in college. And we keep changing majors. So, one thing that is important in all of this is to get to know yourself better. Like not every profession is good for you. So one thing we can do is to get to know ourselves. And we vary in our traits and our qualities and our features, what we're good at. And if we survey the life of the Prophet, peace be upon him, and how he looked at his companions, and how he was able to see the goodness, what they're good at. He says, أرحم أمتي بأمتي أبو بكر. The most compassionate in my ummah, at least in his generation, and we know in all generations after, was Abu Bakr. So he's able to identify the person who was compassionate. Not all people are compassionate. You don't have to force it. Of course, we should have some mercy. But this is like a trait that comes from within. Some people are just more emotional or more, they have feelings toward others. And that feeling is much more pronounced. And he said, وَأَشَدُّهُمْ فِي دِينِ اللَّهِ عُمَرٍ. But the strictest, some people are strict. Like Umar radiallahu anhu. And he was strict with the truth. So for good reasons, for a good cause. وَأَصْدَقُهُمْ حَيَاءً عُثْمَانٍ. And the most shy, also in good. Not shy like you cannot talk or you're not social, no. You have some sense of modesty. So he said that most truthful in his modesty is Uthman. وَأَقْضَاهُمْ عَلَيْهِ. The best in judgment. Not everybody can be a judge, but he said Ali is a really good judge. You're able to make decisions on the spot. You understand the law, and you're able to make decisive decisions. Not everybody can do that. Some people will keep wavering and changing their minds, and it happens to you all the time. You know it even when you're young. You need to make a decision. I want to buy this bicycle or that bicycle. And you keep thinking about it, and you go home, and you come back, and you say, no, I'm going to look more, and I'm going to shop online. And some other people, as soon as they see something, they say, that's what I want. And they buy it. Different personalities. Neither is better than the other. All of that is good. It's just a different trait. وَأَقْرَأُهُمْ لِكِتَابِ اللَّهِ أُبَيْ. The best reciter of the book of Allah is Ubay. We all have to admit that. Not everybody is good with the Quran. Now I say everyone should have a relationship with the Quran. But not everybody is going to be a hafiz. And if you try so hard and you cannot memorize one verse, you have to, at least at one point, you have to, make the decision that maybe this is not for me. Maybe I'll memorize few ayat, few verses. Maybe I'll learn the recitation. But memorization and perfect recitation is not for everybody. And I think the parents have to understand that too. We don't need everybody to be hafiz. Some people should be hafiz. Some people should be good reciters. Some people should have the understanding of the Quran, the way to interpret the Quran. We need all of these people. And then he said, وَأَعْلَمُهُمْ بِالْحَلَالِ وَالْحَرَامِ مُعَاذ. And the most knowledgeable about halal and haram. So this goes into the area of law, because this is what fiqh is about. So they understand what is right and what is wrong. Not everybody has the ability to do that. Not everybody is like Sa'ad here, right? وأعلمهم بالحلال والحرام معاذ وأفرضهم زيد بن ثابت. And أفرضهم means he's the one who understands the laws of inheritance. Because the laws of inheritance would require a lot of math. You have to know math. Not everybody is good at math. I mean, how many are good at math? Right? Show of hands. Wow, again, impressive. I'm very happy to see that. Most people here don't like math for some reason. But you have to know some math. You have to know fractions, for example, if you want to understand the laws of inheritance. So this is a good example. And then he said, أَلَا وَإِنِّ لِكُلِّ أُمَّةٍ أَمِينًا وَأَمِينُ هَذِهِ الْأُمَّةِ عَمْرُ الْجَارِ. So for every nation, there's a person who is trustworthy. And it doesn't mean that you're not trustworthy, but some people can take the trust and defend it and protect it. So the Prophet was able to recognize the strength in each and every one. And this is why it is important today, and a lot of psychologists say that you go after your strength. We have now books called Strength Finder, because it's much better to identify your strength, what you're good at, and go after it and make it better and better, go from good to excellent, than focusing so much on the weaknesses. And it'll take much more energy to bring something that is bring somebody from a very low competence to even mediocrity. It's much easier and much better to focus on strength and make it better and better. So the Prophet ﷺ saw that in his people. One time, a companion, a famous companion, very good companion, Abu Dharr, radiallahu anhu, he came to the Prophet ﷺ and he said, أَلَا تَسْتَعْمِلُونِي? Don't you appoint me to a position where I can lead? You know, a lot of people would like to lead people, right? I want to lead 10 people, 20 people, 100 people. So he said, don't you want to put me in some position of leadership? And the Prophet said, he was very honest. He said, not you, you're not fit. You're not what? You're not fit for that position. He said, in fact, لا تأمرن على اثنين. You're not fit to lead even 2 people. Some people are not fit to lead others. Nowadays we say they're not people. They're not, team workers, right? They're not fit to work in a team. They're loners. In fact, Abu Dharr died by himself. And the Prophet said he will be resurrected as a one person. He was a loner. That's totally fine. We should not shun those people away. We should not make fun of them. We should not mock them. Some people are like that. So he said, you should not lead even 2 people. وَلَا تَوَلَّيَنَّ مَالِ يَتِيمٍ. And don't even watch over the money of an orphan. Some people are not good with money. Let's face it. I give you $100, $1,000, the next day you've wasted it. It's gone. And some other people, subhanAllah, you give them $1, they keep it even after a year. Unless, you invest or you spend it wisely, but they're very good with money. They know how to keep money. So all of these things you should watch yourself and see what you're good at. And don't focus too much on the negative. Focus on the positive. One time when he saw Ibn Abbas, he saw that Ibn Abbas was a really good student. So he said, Allahumma faqihhu fi ad-din wa 'allimhu at-ta'wil. He made a dua for him. He did not make the dua for everybody. He made the dua only for this person because he saw he was a good student. He said, oh Allah, give him the understanding of religion and teach him interpretation of the Quran. See, it's not always recitation. Ubay was good in recitation. Ibn Abbas was good in interpretation. When he saw Ibn Mas'ud also, Ibn Mas'ud was so impressed by the Prophet when he first met him. And he heard him say something. And Abdullah Mas'ud was like mesmerized. And he said, he did not even know he was a prophet at the time. He said, علمني من هذا القول الطيب. Oh, teach me from this beautiful speech that I just heard. That's what he told the Prophet. And the Prophet looked at him, at first sight, he looked at him, he said, إِنَّكَ غُلَامٌ مُعَلَّمٌ. The Prophet could look at people's faces and he could tell what these people are and what they're about. He said, you are indeed a teachable boy. You know, some people you could look, they can absorb information. They're good when it comes to, learning. So he said, إِنَّكَ غُلَامٌ مُعَلَّمٌ. It's like you're already taught. You're ready to go. And some people are not so good in that. So maybe I'll give some tools, and there are basically many ways, but I want to, simplify it for you. I mean, many of you are young. I don't want to go too much into psychology and how we look into the traits and all of that. But there are 5 famous traits. I think they're simple enough, and I'll try and simplify it as much as possible. And maybe you can start identifying where you fall. So these 5 attributes or traits, you could, if you want to memorize the acronym, it's OCEAN. So the beginning of each letter is one concept we're going to talk about. So OCEAN, right? The first letter is? O, not ocean, O. First letter is O. And the O stands for openness. How open are you to new experiences? And again, you see some people, they're always wanting to do something different. They want to eat somewhere different. They want to go somewhere different. They want to just travel and see the world and do that. And other people, they say, you know, I really like this spot, this place. I've been eating there for the last 50 years and I love it, and I'm not interested to go anywhere else. SubhanAllah, some people are like very open. And openness is related to creativity. So some people are very creative. So if you're very creative, then you could become an author. You could become a writer, maybe a fiction writer. Also, entrepreneurs, like they go into a new business and they investigate and they try different opportunities and they keep trying and trying till they find what they like. This is a trait of openness. Not everybody is like that. Also, open people are usually thinkers. They're dreamers. They're able to think of many different ideas because their mind is so open. So this is one trait. Again, you don't have to be like 100% in each and every trait or 0%. A lot of people are somewhere in between. But this is definitely a good way to measure yourself and to see where you are. Am I this type of, am I very open or am I not? And that's totally fine. It doesn't matter where you are. It doesn't matter. It's just that you want to know where you are. The second trait, what is the letter? C. Very good. Is, and this is a long word, but inshallah you can pick it up. It's conscientiousness. It's even hard to say. So, are you conscientious or not? What does that mean? Conscientious means 2 things. It means you are orderly. You care about order. You like to see things in order. And you don't like to see a messy room. So your room usually is very tidy. It's all in place. Maybe it's hard to see it in kids' rooms, but some people are like that even when they're young. They don't like to see toys on the floor. They like to see their bed made up all the time. There are people like that. And other people could care less. You go into their house, their room, it's a big mess. Nothing is in place. Again, I'm not encouraging to be disorderly. I'm just saying it's much harder for some people to be orderly. So that's one part of conscientiousness. The other part is, do you care for time? Are you on time? Do you watch for deadlines? Do you try and finish things on time, or do you procrastinate all the time? You're always delaying and delaying. So if you're conscientious, then you are, you are on time, and you have attention to small details. Like you pay attention to small details. You are thorough. You are organized. You make plans and you follow them. If you're not conscientious, even when you make plans, usually you don't follow them. So usually people like that, if you are very conscientious, you could be a manager, you could be an engineer because you pay a lot of attention to details. You could be an accountant because you watch, for numbers and make sure everything has to be right. You cannot make mistakes, even small mistakes. All right. What is the third letter? E. Very good. Some of you are still following. We have the timekeeper here, so don't worry, we're not going to go over half an hour. The third one is extraversion. That's the E, what the E stands for. Extraversion. So those are people who are social. They like social interactions. They're extroverts. And the opposite is an introvert. An introvert is someone who likes to sit by themselves. They love to just sit by themselves and do something on their own. It could be reading a book, it could be just looking at nature, it could be playing a game, but they prefer to sit by themselves and do something on their own. And they're not necessarily excited when there's a big crowd. So they don't like big crowds. They prefer quiet, they prefer, being alone, and they're not, they don't draw any energy from the crowd. The extrovert, their energy comes from being together in a big crowd. If you're not an extrovert, you find it difficult to work with people, with teams, and usually you're not assertive. And you notice this a lot in people. Some people are very assertive, like even when they speak, you can't even say no to them. These people are extroverts. The opposite, you find yourself shaking your head all the time, whatever it is. And then when somebody you say, I should have said no, but because of the pressure of the social gathering, you find yourself saying yes all the time. And I'll get back to that trait in a minute, because there's another one too, like it. But basically, if you are an extrovert, you could be good for sales. Like you could be a salesman, because you have to go and convince people to buy your product, right? So you might be good in sales. You could also be a good public speaker. You could be a politician. I don't advise it, but whatever, if you like it. Attorney. You could be good in law and being in court and convincing and being assertive and convincing others of your position. All right, next letter. A. Some people are still keeping up, that's good. And that's being agreeable. So some people are very agreeable. They always want to see people agree, and they don't like to see disagreements, and they're upset when there is a disagreement. So they always want to shake their heads and being helpful and considerate and wanting to compromise. And other people hate compromise. And anything you say, they want to say the opposite. Even if they agree, they want to say the opposite because they're disagreeable. So there's just two types of people. Some people are very agreeable and some people are not. If you are agreeable, usually you could be good in teaching because you have to appeal to everybody, you have to compromise, you have to repeat something more than once to explain it to people. You are patient, and you also could be a good mediator. The last one is what? And that is referring to neuroticism. And that is how sensitive you are to bad emotions or to negative emotions. Some people are super sensitive. The minute you say something, they get hurt, right? And they think you're talking about them. And they keep thinking about it. And they go and try and sleep, and they're still thinking about it. They wake up the next morning, and they hold a grudge. These are super sensitive people. I mean, again, it's all grades and levels, but this is your natural reaction. Some people are not immune, but they're not as sensitive. So if you find yourself being obsessive about certain things, also these people are likely to have more anxiety and maybe depression, but this is an area I'm not an expert in. But take it as someone who is sensitive to negative emotions. So they get angry faster, they get upset faster. You have a question?
What's the last word again?
It's a little hard. Neuroticism, I'll spell it Neuroticism. You could also say, if this is too hard, you could say emotional stability. How stable are you when it comes to these things? All right. So obviously these people cannot work in stressful situations. Certain types of jobs or certain types of positions are very stressful. So you don't want to be in those positions. If you are that kind of person, it's totally fine, but you cannot be in those positions. All right. So this is ocean. So maybe a final advice, and I realize some of you might be a bit younger for that, but I think it's always good to start early rather than starting late. So maybe final advice, maybe 3 things we can do, inshallah, to help us also determine what we like and what we want to be. Number 1 is you can take courses online. And again, even if you're young, I mean, a lot of courses now are free. Like if, for example, you're not sure if you like computers, there are many courses, easy ones. Online, you can just take one and see how it feels. Is this for me? Is this not for me? Do I like it? Do I not like it? So you can do that. You might say, I like nature. Good, go take a small course, an easy course in biology or in zoology, whatever it is, like study of animals, and see if you like it. Maybe it's something you like, or maybe not. So this is a big resource you have at your hand. Or you can read a book about a particular topic and see if you like it. Same thing applies to Islam. If you're interested in studying a particular science of Islam, you want to see if you like hadith or Quran or fiqh, you could listen to a lecture in this regard. You can talk to a sheikh. And the second actually advice is talk to grown-ups. People who have gone through this before. So let's say you want to be, I don't know, what do you want to be? Let's say you want to be an attorney. Go find a lawyer and talk to them and ask them, how is it like? How is your life like? And he might tell you, I work 24/7 and it's crazy and I don't have a life. And then you say, okay, maybe this is not for me because I'm all about work-life balance. Like I want to have life, I want to have family, I want to be able to go on hiking trips, whatever it is. But you can do that right now. You can go and talk. You say, I want to be an imam. Go talk to an imam and see how it is like. How his life is like. What is his day-to-day business? What is his daily activities?
2 minutes.
2 minutes. And the last advice is, and I think I mentioned that already, but find out your strength. And also find out what kind of person you are. Like some people, they like how do we learn? Some people like to learn through listening. Some people like to learn through reading. Some people like to learn through writing. And how you perform and all of that. So I think by starting with these 5 traits that I mentioned, it's a good start. But if you're interested in more resources, you can come talk to me afterward. So I kind of hesitated when I thought about this topic and whether I should do it or not. This is not the usual topic, but it was a request from a dear brother, and I thought, this might be better for someone who's graduating from high school. I know not everybody is graduating from high school. I know some of you are, so this is hopefully good. You are. And for these matters, I think it's never too early to start thinking about that. So I hope even if you got a little bit of it, even if you got 1% or 10% of what I said, hopefully this is something that will help you, it will guide you a bit through this difficult decision. Certainly you do not want to be 30 or 40 or 50 and still not know what you like or what your strengths are, or you're totally unhappy with your life, totally unhappy with your career decisions, you're totally unhappy with what you do, you're totally unhappy with the major you studied in college. So the earlier the better. But again, even if you're 20 or so, it's not late. Even if you're 25, you still have a chance. By the time you're 40, it's kind of a little bit late. 50, forget it. So I know this is not a subject they teach in school, and it irritates me that they don't do that. But I hope, this is again a glimpse, and inshallah, if you have any questions about it, or if you want me to elaborate on something, now we will transition to the second segment, which is Q&A.
15 minutes?
Yes, 15 minutes. Yes. 3 questions, wow.
2.
Go. No, it's okay.
So, my first question is, you said that, people are being, social, something like that, but, and you said that you're not going to be, a good social person if you don't work with people well. So, what if you don't work, what if you're good at doing social stuff but don't work with people well? Or, the other way around? People don't work with you.
Let me make sure I understand what you said. You're saying there's a possibility that you could be social but not work with people well?
Yeah.
So maybe it is possible that you are social, or sociable even, but you're disagreeable. I think that's what you mean. And that's possible that you have 2 traits which could be competing with each other. So let's say you enjoy the crowd, but you're feisty, you always like to fight. That is very possible. And in some cases, maybe one trait will win over the other. If you're so feisty or if you're so proud of your opinion, that's gonna overweigh your sociability. So people will focus on that side usually. But if you're just an extrovert, you love to work with people, usually you try to make your way and to make it work. So, but you have to look for some compromise in the middle. You had a second question.
I don't want to say
You don't want to say it? Okay. Yes?
So, we go next. So, all of these tools are excellent, and anything that you come across, I would recommend you take. But the question for you is, are these, is it an on-off switch? So, am I sociable? Am I agreeable? Or am I not? Or is it a scale? How sociable you are versus...
So the question is, these traits I mentioned, are they like a switch? You are sociable or not, or you are agreeable or not, or is there like a grade or like a spectrum? No doubt it is a spectrum. It's very hard to find someone who's 100% agreeable, for example. But there are a lot of statistics. For example, they say on average, I think they say 60% of women are agreeable versus 40% men are agreeable. So this is a statistic. But then you also have the outliers. So no doubt it is a spectrum. And the vast majority of people are going to fall somewhere in between. But you're going to notice on yourself, and this is again for yourself, not to judge others, by the way. You're going to notice that on average you're going to be more agreeable. If you are agreeable, you're going to see that you are more tilting toward the agreeable side. But you're also going to notice on yourself, if you're not agreeable, you're going to notice that also as well. So yes, you can have situations when you're agreeable, but the vast majority of the time you are disagreeable, hence you are disagreeable. So you can even measure yourself, just start watching yourself and see how you behave. You could, by the way, when I look at myself, I see where I fit in each and every one. You don't need, you can go and take some tests online. There are all kinds of tests for free even. But I don't think you need it. If you know yourself, if you watch yourself, you could see exactly where you fit. And even if you're not 100%, you can still tell, oh, I am orderly. I know I care about order. Or I do not care about order, and I hate the people who care about order. So you can tell that about yourself. Yes?
Question for my sister. If you identify with some, 2 traits, but another trait conflicts with it, would it be wise to see a job where, the majority of your traits go with it, or should you not?
Okay, so a very good question. The question is, if I see that I have 2 or 3 traits, but one of them is contradictory to the other 2 and something like that, then what do? Is it better to go with the 2 traits? So this is like the majority of my traits against the other one? First of all, we have to understand this is only an approximation. The human is so complex, especially our psychology and traits. Every human being has a very intricate mix of all these traits and others. By the way, like I said, this is like a summary. Some people have, or some psychologists have like 500 different traits. So this is like a very, very condensed summary of all these traits. And sometimes within the same trait, you might have different sub-traits, if you will. So just understand, this is only a simplification. So you might find some contradictions. For example, you might say, well, I think this brother brought a beautiful example, because he said it could be someone who's an extrovert. So supposedly he's good with people, right? But he is disagreeable. That's likely, that's possible. So in that case, I would say, work it out. Like you said, we have a very good idea. What if I have like these traits, maybe 2 or 3, on one side and another one on the other side? Maybe then you go and focus on the heavier side, right? Where most of your traits reside. And maybe find something like that. Also, sometimes you can find different things to do. So what you do in life is not only your job. So maybe, for example, let's say you are conscientious, so you say, I want to be an engineer. But I also like people. You see, I really like people because I am open, or I have some extroversion. So maybe on the side, I'm going to go and work with a non-profit organization. I'm going to help the needy. I'm going to go and work with, the orphans. So this is how you can also compromise. So don't think of it as just a profession. Basically, this is what you do in life, not just as a job, but how you fulfill your purpose in life. Does that make sense?
Okay.
Anything else?
Yep.
Oh, back here, yes.
So you said that say Muhammad can know what traits you have. So what if you have a lot of traits? Will he know all the traits?
You know what impresses me is when it seems when I am talking, a lot of people may not be paying attention, but then when they ask the questions, I can tell that they were really paying attention. And maybe they don't show it, or maybe they can multitask, and I cannot. So they can basically talk and listen at the same time. But thank you, this is really good. So the question is, what if I have so many different traits? Because I mentioned Prophet Muhammad ﷺ was able to identify different traits in different people. And like I said, to the brother here, no doubt, as humans, we are very complex. We have so many different things. But at the end, there's certain traits that will come out. So that's what I'm talking about. But no doubt, I'm sure like everyone, even if you're an introvert, in some cases, you like to be in a company. I mean, when I say introvert, doesn't mean you're going to be a loner all your life. You still like to interact with people sometimes. But on average, you'd rather, if somebody gave you a choice, you'd say, I don't feel like going to this social gathering today. I'd rather sit home and contemplate, I don't know, whatever. So, yes, you will have all kinds of traits, but certain traits will stand out. And those are the ones you could, what do we say? You could leverage. Leverage is probably a hard word. You could make use of.
Okay.
Does that make sense? Good. Yes.
How would you feel? Would you feel like good or happy if you chose like a job that a Muslim job or a job that it's not really for Muslims?
Wow. The question is, how do I feel? So I like even the introduction, like how do I feel about choosing between a Muslim job or a non-Muslim job? I don't necessarily distinguish between the two, and I don't think Muslims should. There's no such a thing as like a secular job and a Muslim job. And let me explain. We have many great scholars and imams. Imam Shafi'i, I don't have to name all of them. Each one of them had a profession. Like some of them were like tailors. Some of them were businessmen. Like I think Abu Hanifa might have been a businessman. And some of them one of them is a Zayyat. He's called a Zayyat because he used to sell oil and he used to deal with oil. So each one of them, even as it was, you might look at it as a lowly job, but each one of them had a profession, had a job, and these were great Muslim scholars. So I don't think we should distinguish or we should separate between the two. There's no problem if you are good in Islamic knowledge and at the same time good in secular knowledge. In fact, I think we should have both. And one of the problems today is that we either have an imam, a scholar in Islamic knowledge, but has no idea about any other knowledge. This was not the case in the past. Especially when you look at these great scholars like Imam Ghazali and Ibn Taymiyyah, those people had knowledge in almost every area. In linguistics, in philosophy, in science, whatever science existed at the time, and also in tafsir and hadith and fiqh and all of that. So in the past, we did not have that segregation or that separation between Islamic knowledge and secular knowledge, like we have today. Great question. Yes, over there.
So if you would work socially and
I love these questions. I mean, they ask it like adults.
and you were working socially, but you're like the people who you work with don't want to work socially with you.
So if you work socially, but the people around you do not want to be social or do not want to work with you. So usually if you are agreeable and you are good in social activities, you will find a way. Because you have a way with people. See, the people who are not extroverts, they're introverts, the minute somebody upsets them, they say, forget it, I'm gonna do it on my own. But the social people, these people, and I'm not saying one is better than the other, but the people who are extroverts, they'll say, I'm gonna make it work. I'll go talk to him and see what's going on. Why does he not want to work with me? Maybe he has a good reason. Maybe it's my problem. Maybe I should fix a problem that I have. And they'll keep working. They're willing to compromise. They'll say, maybe it's my fault. I'll meet him halfway through. Maybe then they'll come over. Maybe I'm not acknowledging their accomplishments. Maybe I should recognize them more. Maybe I should say good job more often. So they have a way with people. That's why they're sociable, right? Good. Any other questions?
Shay, I have a question.
Oh, there.
Hi.
I wasn't sure what the voice was coming from.
So, I have a job, I go to school, and there's Islam, right? And I've noticed that the youth have been paying attention, so this might actually come in handy later on when they're grown-ups. So, what I realized is I have a hard time with differentiating, because life is complicated and things bleed through with each other. I have a hard time with differentiating on keeping Islam one thing and say work and school another thing. So how could I be able to balance both of them out? And if this could be like a khutbah, if it's like too much to answer, we could do it another time.
I mean, this is a good observation, but maybe I'll ask you first. Can you give me an example where you see that perhaps Islam is, or whatever else, the job and the school, how does it contradict or how does it interfere? Do you have a good example?
So for school per se, we definitely have homework, so that can sometimes get in the way of, say, doing dhikr or something like that. And so say you want to do this, but you have to manage your time, and you also have homework that's due the next day.
Yeah.
How do you manage basically life and Islam?
Oh yeah, that's a great question. So the question to rephrase more specifically, sometimes, for example, I have lots of homework and then I want to do something like dhikr, which is to remember God, to remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So how do I reconcile these apparently conflicting responsibilities. What is nice about Islam is that, for example, when you want to worship, you don't have to go to a temple, you don't have to go to a particular place. The Prophet used to mention God in all positions, in all situations. For example, you could say, I'm going to study for half an hour and then I need to relax, because you can't be studying continuously for 4 or 5 hours. Everybody knows that you have to take a break. In fact, it's much better to say go for 20 minutes and then take a break for 5 minutes. It's much more effective because your attention span will dwindle after a while. So what you do is, let's say, you study for 20 minutes and then you go outside and you contemplate, you look at nature. I'm just giving you an example, you don't have to follow that verbatim. And you like to go outside and contemplate, meditate, and say dhikr, and then come back and study again. You come back fresh, and now you're ready to consume more information, let's say. So I think, like you said, it's all about time management. I don't think necessarily that there is a contradiction. In fact, I think if you try and combine the two, it'll work out for the best, both for your studies and for Islam. And in fact, I think Islam is not going to stand in the way. In fact, Islam is going to help you, because it'll give you the energy you need. It'll give you the spiritual fuel, if you will. So Islam is going to actually work very well. It's going to complement your studies. This is how I would look at it. And the attitude is very important. If you're convinced that this is how it works, you will make it work. Yes.
Time's been up for 2 minutes.
Time has been up, but it's okay. We'll take maybe 1 or 2.
If you're good at more than one thing, how do you choose one?
If you're good, and I think one of the brothers asked a similar question, but if you're good in 2 things, if it's only 2, I would say try and do both if you can. Now you cannot do 10 things, but I think it's doable if you have 2 or 3 things that you like. I don't know, you could say, I like sports, but I also love to, study physics. I don't know, whatever, I'm just making something up. Okay, great. Or you could say, I like computer science or whatever, IT, but I also love to study Islam and fiqh or something like that. Okay, great. Then you could say, I'm going to take a semester and study my favorite subject, computer science, whatever, engineering, and then I'll take maybe a month and go study with the sheikh and learn from him Islam and tafsir and hadith. So 2 things are manageable for sure. And I think it'd be boring if life was about only one thing anyways, right? So you want to have some flavor in your life. You want to have a few things going on at the same time. Especially if something doesn't work, you have a plan B, you fall on plan B, right? So that's good.
So this is mostly addressed to people who are going to higher studies, but I think it's also for anyone who's going to be in a classroom environment or something, a subject that they don't really understand. So my question is this: so a lot of us, when we go when we're in a classroom or we're in some kind of field that we do not understand. Example, if I was in a math class right now, I'd be like, I don't understand this, or I'm in a class and I understand it, but then someone else has a better understanding of it. Now, a lot of us feel defeated. They feel like, oh no, I feel like I'm an imposter. I'm just faking it till I'm making it. So my question to you is, what do you believe is a better solution to address this idea? Because in a sense, it defeats the purpose of like why we're trying to get to our ultimate goal, but it just like hinders us from like approaching something in a positive attitude.
So let me rephrase, make sure I understand the question. The question is, what if I am let's say attending a class on a subject that is hard for me, so I feel like I'm always behind, I feel like, you said, an imposter, something like that?
In a sense, for example, I'm in this, if you're in a class, right, but then someone else could be them, oh my god, they feel like they're so much more intelligent, they know this better than me.
Yes. What I want to make sure though, in your case, not your case specifically, but in that case, that at least this class, supposed class, or this subject fit well into your overall plan. So let's say you have decided that you want to study, law or fiqh or Islam, or you want to study math. So you've already decided that this is good for you and all the classes are working for you. And then you have this peculiar class. So it does fit into your overall plan. That's what's important. Now, yes, you might struggle because even when you say, I like physics, it doesn't mean that you're going to like everything in physics. You might find that you have a calling in quantum physics, maybe, I don't know. And you don't like, Newtonian physics, or something like that. So in that case, you're not way off, but it's something you have to go through anyways because you're not going to graduate if you don't do that. So don't let that discourage you. However, if after you decided you take multiple subjects, and every subject you take you find that this is not for me, or this, I'm way behind, or this is not clicking, then maybe in that case you might consider changing the major because maybe you made the wrong decision. But if it's just one topic or one subject, I would not let that discourage me because in every subject, every field, there's so many subfields and there's so many subtopics, and it's not possible for you or for anyone to be super good in them or to like them all even. Like I can give you an example. In math, there's so many different topics and there'll be some that you just don't like. You like geometry, but you hate algebra. You like calculus, but you're not good friends with trigonometry, something like that. So that's totally fine, I think. If it's limited just to one topic, it should be fine, I think.
I have just a quick comment.
Go ahead.
Well, the question that the sister said, I mean the differentiation or the balance between Islam and life. I believe that what makes Islam different than every other religion, that through intention, niyyah, you can turn any ordinary job into an act of worship. Yes. That you don't need to differentiate, you don't need to draw a line between this is Islam and this is non-Islam. So if she's studying and she had a good intention for this studying, this can be equivalent to that.
Okay, that's a very good comment. The fact that in Islam we also have this special feature that any act of daily life could be turned into an act of worship through intention. I agree with you, still you also want to think about worship. Like we can't say, well, all my life will be kind of secular and I'll turn it into worship, but I won't do any actual worship. So we still have when I say actual worship, I mean rituals. So you still want the rituals because like I said, it also gives you the spiritual taste. So no matter how much my intention is good and I know I'm working because I want to feed my family, I have good intentions and I want to raise money to pay for the orphans, but still you want the spirituality, you want the actual worship, you want to read the Quran and pray and all of that. One more. I think we may not have a quiz tonight because we had many questions, which is fine. I love questions. And I see the pizza, so maybe we'll end with a question and then that we would not have violated the time limit here.
I was asking for this quiz.
I'm sorry? For the quiz? Oh, you were asking for the quiz. I don't know, do you guys want to have a quiz?
Yeah.
So here's the thing. A brother saw me last time and promised me that he's going to bring the prizes, the gifts. And I don't see the brother here. So I did not bring anything with me. So even if you do a quiz, it won't be with any actual gifts.
I still want a quiz.
Okay, we'll do a quick one. I think we can...